Hey everyone. So as previously mentioned, the idea of this YouTube page is to give more positive takes on different movies. Sometimes ones that haven't had that warm of a reception. I've been looking at the online reception for the latest Thor movie, Love and Thunder. And it's been pretty overwhelmingly negative, I would say. I just saw the movie myself for the first time, and I kind of want to dispute, some of the takes I've heard online. Um, so Ragnarok was obviously a great breath of fresh air. It's impossible to catch lightning twice, pun intended. So, you can't really go in expecting another Ragnarok. I think that's a little harsh to expect. Um, Having said that, I think Taika Waititi, he wrote this one. I don't think he wrote the last one, but he wrote and directed this one, as well as, being the voice of Korg. I think he did a lot of really good stuff in terms of bringing over a lot of the same characters, a lot of the same, scenarios. You have Jeff Goldblum in the last one being the kind of like funny dictator. In this one, you have Russell Crowe very much doing the exact same role. And of course, I should mention spoilers throughout. Um, I also thought something that's kind of interesting is in the last movie, they had the reveal of the Hulk in the trailer, whereas it would have been a lot more impactful if you had gone into the movie not even knowing he was in it, and then suddenly Hulk was in it, and your mind would be blown. And in the exact same way, if they hadn't had any of the marketing about Jane being the new Thor, the mighty Thor, then it might have been really surprising and cool to see her, come in all her godly glory in this one. Um, just in terms of the setup of this one, I think people are having a really hard time grappling with, when you have a movie, you can break it down to a few different things. So one of those things is tone. You can definitely see that the tone of this one is very, irreverent, doesn't take itself seriously at all, and that might be disappointing or bad for some people. Personally, I'm here for all of Taika's stuff, including Our Flag Means Death, What We Do in the Shadows, Reservation Dogs, pretty much everything he has a hand in. I think he is a director who's extremely talented and does, know what he's doing. I don't think any of this stuff is a mistake. You could also say that some of this is, the Marvel problem of, rushed visual effects, or maybe, often you have visual effects supervisors, directing whole sequences essentially. And it's not always the director who is in control of what's literally happening in the frame. So some of this could be, the Marvel pipeline is kind of getting jammed up a little bit, and you see people complaining about the TV show effects as well. The She-Hulk trailer and some of the Miss Marvel stuff. Um, but what we have here is a really interesting premise, and while the tone is, like I said, very light and irreverent, you do have some extremely dark themes. The central premise of this is of a man who was deeply pious, deeply religious, and he's kind of lost his faith, upon encountering a very, old school style of deity, one that's kind of just sees humanity as a plaything. And you see him, very conveniently, obviously, we have this sword that gives him the power to kill gods and is slowly, driving him mad. One complaint I would have is, towards the end of the movie, you see Gore, die, and it was very unclear to me why he was dying. But if you go back to the beginning, then you can see that they actually do say that if you possess this necro sword, then eventually it will kill you if you lose it. It's kind of a equivalent of a blink and you miss it line, so I obviously missed it. Uh, but yeah, I think it's a very compelling theme to hook your movie around, and you have Christian Bale giving another outstanding performance. Very creepy, very menacing. I'd love if they did an R-rated cut. Added in some of that Aphex Twin creepy stuff that he said he left on the floor, or they said that they left on the editing floor. But what he has here is very effective. He has some very compelling arguments. He kind of gets in everyone's head, especially when they go into the I forget what they call it, but the black and white realm, where they eventually encounter him. So yeah, I thought Christian Bale did a really good job. It was kind of funny seeing him just basically use his normal speaking voice after putting so much work into every movie he's in. He always is doing some different American accent or slightly different British accent. So it's nice that he just basically was speaking how Christian Bale talks. And I thought his look was very compelling. I think it'd make a great Halloween costume, come October. as would a few of the other different looks in this movie. I have seen this complaint online a lot, which is that Valkyrie's kind of wasted. She is a very cool character. I think it would have been a big waste if she hadn't showed up at all. She shows up for essentially the sequence where they go to the omnipotent, sorry, it's a hard word to say, omnipotent Valley of the Gods, essentially. She's basically key in that sequence, and then is kind of taken out of the movie. That's fine. Tessa Thompson, I'm sure, has a million other commitments, so that might have explained part of it. But yeah, as far as the setup, obviously you have the Guardians of the Galaxy are used as a big joke, essentially, which is that, they're all sick of Thor and his shtick. So you have a very funny scene where they're like really anxious to just leave and just abandon Thor to his quest to find out who's killing gods. One other thing that I did think is a valid complaint is, you have all the marketing, this 80s theme, very 80s centric, that mostly comes into play in the titles and also in some of the music choices they used, which is very Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought it was far more effective in Ragnarok when you kind of tied it all to the Led Zeppelin song. And in this one, the music choices sounded a little more random and were kind of, I think, used to cover up some of the deficiencies in the action sequences, which weren't really all that memorable. So if you're going into this movie, expecting a serious movie, expecting like a really cool action movie, then I can definitely see why you'd be disappointed. If you just go in expecting like an entertaining movie and a funny Taika Waititi movie with some deeper themes, I think you'll definitely be satisfied. Again, this is a movie that starts with Gore losing his child, which I can hardly imagine anything darker than that. Fortunately by the end there's happy resolutions all around. And you have Jane Foster, essentially dying of cancer, which is pretty bleak as well. And some fun cameos from Kat Dennings and Lady Sif. What I want to say about the wardrobe specifically is that I kind of expected Thor to wear the like 80s, red vest, kind of as Guardians of the Galaxy look that all the marketing was built around. But instead he quickly reverts to, I thought was a really cool outfit. It's got like a wolf cape and very like brown and uniform. I thought that was a very cool look. And then he kind of switches again to what I thought was kind of a disappointing look, which is, his very standard Thor outfit, but they throw a bunch of like crazy colors on it that don't really do anything significant to aid the look. I also thought they built nicely on, Thor's power set, based on Ragnarok and his adventures with Stormbreaker in Infinity War and Endgame. You can see that he's very much now in tune with his lightning abilities, and it comes into play throughout the movie. They don't really comment on it, which I thought was great. And, I always thought that Robert Downey Jr. and maybe Chris Evans had some of the most significant arcs in these movies. But actually, looking at Chris Hemsworth, where he's come from Thor 1 through the Avengers and all his other movies, you can really see that he's had a great evolution, and that Chris Hemsworth is very comfortable in the role and is bringing a lot of humanity, bringing a lot of himself. You even have the movie featuring his real life daughter eventually in the film, which is really cool to see. There's a lot more themes and I think this is probably him and Taika and maybe some of the other parents involved, but, I thought a lot of the themes were very mature in the sense that they're about, fatherhood and having offspring or even motherhood, when Jane comes in. And just, having more responsibilities to future generations. I thought all that stuff was really good. I thought it was hilarious when we saw a new Asgard and it's become almost like a theme park attraction. Some of that was probably, Disney spoofing, Disney parodying. You saw funny names of signs all around. I think there was a power, reality stone, like a Cold Stone Creamery type ice cream shop that had like a Thanos Power Glove style name. So that was funny to see. And of course you have Valkyrie revealing that she has a spaceship, which is this, novelty boat. So that was pretty funny. I did enjoy the stuff with the screaming goats. It was kind of just the same joke over and over again without any variation, but, they found some funny sounds, funny animations. I love very late in the movie, you have, Korg has been reduced to just a face, and you have the goat picking up the face and kind of running off with it. That was all pretty funny. So it's just like more surreal, hilarious imagery of this boat ship being dragged across time and space, or just space, I guess, with these goats and through Stormbreaker's ability to create a rainbow bridge. So that was all really cool. Some of this kind of reminded me of the last Harry Potter book slash movies, just in the sense that you have this fascination with weapons, or you can even think of Lord of the Rings. You have this fascination with weapons and how they're tied to their, masters or the people who wield them, essentially. And how everyone has a very specific weapon that, gives them access to these different abilities. One of the funniest running jokes throughout the movie, after we find out that Jane has somehow reforged Mjolnir. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but she has the hammer. And you have this, jealousy arc, not only between Thor and, just missing being with Jane, and also between, his weapon Stormbreaker and the hammer now, who's almost like an ex-lover. Which is a very funny idea, and I think was definitely played off from Ragnarok when we have, that hilarious line that Korg says about the hammer pulls you off. I think that was the impetus for this line of jokes, which I think were very funny every time the, jealous Stormbreaker came into frame. Was always a good belly laugh for me. So I thought some of the stuff that ironically, a lot of people's favorite part was when they go to the God City and all the stuff with Zeus. I did like the stuff with Zeus. I think they definitely could have just had it on, an Olympus or something, just had it be all the Greek and Roman gods or something like that. Because, they didn't really linger on what the other entities were in that palace. It was obviously, effect heavy. A lot of this looks like it was shot in the volume. Which again I have seen complaints about, but we have this new tool, and obviously Disney is all gung ho about using it, and all their Star Wars fiction like Obi-Wan and the Mandalorian and Boba Fett. So it's just a tool they're going to use, and hopefully filmmakers will become more comfortable and responsible with it. But that didn't really draw me out. I'm like, okay, all these films are very effect heavy, so I don't know why that's a big problem. So obviously we have this ridiculous realm of the gods, and again I think it's very daring, strange, maybe a little dangerous for Marvel / Disney to have put out a film in which they are very much lampooning and making fun of a lot of world religions, deities. That seems like kind of a I don't know. I just am surprised that they would even go there. So again, I think a lot of people said that's their favorite sequence. For me, it felt very much like a retread of the Jeff Goldblum stuff as the game master. All this talk of orgies comes back again. Sounds like Taika is kind of telling on himself or something. I don't know. Russell Crowe did a really good job as Zeus. I've seen a lot of people reference, Greek Australian fishermen. I don't know that reference, but you could definitely see that he's drawing from a very clear archetype, which is very funny, just because he's just kind of a, very. He doesn't seem like he has a lot of splendor. He's just a very normal, sort of down to earth Zeus, which is kind of funny. He just wants, to do orgies, I guess. So that was interesting and strange. And I thought effective. He's probably one of the funnier parts in the movie, just his whole performance. Of course, we have Thor nudity. Chris Hemsworth obviously has a very good physique. I don't know. I guess that would appeal to a lot of people. Maybe, I don't know. Reminds me a lot of, the big Logan nude scene in Days of Future Past or something. Which, again, why is Disney Plus censoring Daryl Hannah's butt in Splash, but then they keep having male butts all over the place? I don't really get that. Let people see female butts, I don't know. Kind of weird dichotomy. So, you have a lot of good stuff with Tessa Thompson. There's this running gag where she has a grenade-shaped music music player, so you get some more like modern beats through that. She's a very cool character again, and I've heard her say in interviews she didn't mind, or she didn't really want them to focus so much on Valkyrie's sexuality. I think it's very clear that she's supposed to be into women and has a very masculine energy in general. And she like kisses somebody's hand, one of Zeus's pantheon of women, or retinue, I should say. And I think she just focused on delivering a cool performance, and I think that definitely carried through, especially her interplay with Natalie Portman. So again, speaking of Natalie Portman, I have some complaints about her as well. I actually really enjoyed her performance. It reminded me a lot of, her SNL sketch that she did many, many years ago now at this point. But she definitely had that like kind of strong pixie energy. Maybe manic pixie, I guess would be the better term, thinking back about Garden State. But yeah, she had this kind of infectious energy, and you could tell that was informed by the fact that she knew she was still dying, and the hammer wasn't actually helping her with that. So she was just trying to enjoy her time while she could, and I think that was very clear in the performance, though maybe some people missed that was the reason why she was acting like that. And they give her chances to be a little bit funny. Yeah, some of the lines could have maybe used work. Even the like purposely bad line that she comes up with, like "I'm gonna hit you with a hammer" or whatever it was, wasn't really that funny. It was more just like her performance of like, it reminds me of Frankie in Community, season 6, where the fact that she's not funny is the thing that's funny. But yeah, I thought she was really a lot more invested than I've seen her be in the other movies. I've tried to watch Thor 2 many times, and I never remember it's like the least memorable movie I've ever seen. So I definitely wouldn't say that one was a good performance. So I thought she was a lot stronger here, and obviously she got to show off her physique that she probably worked out a lot to attain, if that's something that people are into. And I do think it was a little ridiculous that every time either Thor was wearing a helmet, it was completely CGI. I'm not really sure why Marvel's so into really fake-looking CGI helmets, but again, with this kind of movie, I don't really care. I'm not like coming to this movie looking for really groundbreaking special effects or anything like that. I did also have a real problem with all the gooey black monsters. That's been a big problem. But I think Taika even realized, or like was aware of that problem, and kind of minimized their presence. They're mostly there to nab the children, so Gore can have his whole sub-tangent. And by the way, a sub-thread about putting kids in cages definitely feels like it's a little bit of a political bent there. I'd be surprised if Taika didn't mean that, the way that it seems like it is. And there's a very funny back and forth. Heimdall's son has the ability to bring in Thor's ghost, essentially, to talk to the children, and those are some touching and cool scenes, and surprisingly builds up the third act, which I thought was totally unexpected and really awesome. In the sort of this Robert Rodriguez Spy Kids, we're gonna empower kids kind of a feel. So, they go to the realm of the gods, and they try to enlist their help, and Thor, this is a running theme, it's clearly intended that Thor is also becoming disillusioned with his association with the other gods. And you could also ask, why do the Asgardians and the Vikings get a pass? They don't seem that great either, particularly looking at Ragnarok and all the colonialist thing. But I think it's a very intentional theme. You could almost look at the Christian mythos. We see that Thor was this spoiled, bratty, horrible god, just like all the other ones he's encountered, and it was actually his love for a specific mortal, Jane, that changed him over time. We get some very touching, I thought, flashbacks, very sentimental and tender of their relationship, which you hadn't really seen ever before. You just see the start of it, and then they're already broken up the next time you see them, basically. So you never really got the chance to sort of linger in their relationship. So it's nice to see that. And, it was very realistic, probably maybe too realistic for some people. Probably some people are like, oh no, real emotions, real emotional arcs. But I thought all this stuff was really great. It was very realistic about how they grew apart and how they had different things that they were into. So yeah, those are some good flashbacks that clearly set up, why the hammer has now decided to protect Jane. Essentially what it's doing. And then we basically are zooming towards the finish line, which is now we realize that Gore has actually just set up Thor, and that what he really wants, he doesn't just want to steal children for no reason. And I should mention there's some really creepy and awesome scenes of Gore just like kind of psychologically tormenting these children, which I shouldn't say is awesome, but just Christian Bale's performance and the things they have him do. And again, I want to see those cutscenes. Are really creepy and unsettling. So that's all really well done. But anyway, we find out that the children were just a ruse to get Thor to bring Stormbreaker to him. And that what he's actually trying to do, and Jane actually realizes this, which is cool to have her do that, since she's supposed to be like the super intelligent one. And we see many times that she has this great acclaim as a physicist. So anyway, we find out that Gore actually wants to use Stormbreaker to enter this realm of eternity, where he can actually make a wish for anything. And we also find out that, they're kind of unsuccessful in their bid to use these three big weapons, the hammer, the Stormbreaker axe, and this new weapon, which is Zeus's lightning bolt. We see that they're not able to take Gore down the way they want to. And that ultimately, it was kind of a shade of in Ragnarok as well, when, they accidentally bring Lady Hela to the Asgard through the use of Stormbreaker, or I guess they have Heimdall bring them, or I don't know, Carl Urban's character bring them back to Asgard accidentally. But in this case, we see almost the exact same situation. Thor is using Stormbreaker to try to get back to New Asgard, and accidentally he lets Gore take it. So then we have him just rely on Valkyrie's Pegasus, which can also travel through time and space conveniently. I like that there's... that's another joke, clearly, that now they have access to so many different ways to go through the universe, when presumably it would be very hard to do that. So that's clearly a joke as well. So we have Thor just relying on this lightning bolt. But we see that he actually comes up with the idea. He's going to infuse his lightning and thunder powers together, with this lightning bolt, to actually empower all the kids. And again, this is where we get the awesome fight scene of the kids just taking on these, very increasingly creepy shadow realm creatures. So that was just a great moment, just like a very, if I'd seen this in theaters, I think that would have been a very, crowd-pleasing moment for everyone to cheer, of just seeing all these kids who are very much like Earth children, just wielding all these different funny weapons, like stuffed animals, and I think a jump rope I saw at one point, and, kicking some butt. These movies are ostensibly for kids, so it's nice to actually have a scene that recognizes that. That's not just, they're sitting in cars and things are blowing up and they're pretending they're shooting things or whatever they had in like 4 different movies. So it's nice to just have an empowerment scene, and a scene where kids can be like, yes, we have the power, or whatever. And yeah, I did also really like just the visuals of the black and white realm where they first encounter Gore again. It's just a very cool looking sequence, very stylistic, probably drawing from a lot of different black and white filmmakers, I have to imagine. I don't know, someone can make the breakdown video of all that. And you see little nice touches like when the lightning bolt is colored in, or when Thor uses his thunder powers, that it's kind of blue. So there's nice little touches of color throughout that. And then we basically just have the ending, and they've managed to destroy the Necrosword using some clever weapon work. We see that Thor has actually tried to prevent Jane from coming to help him. Shades of the Matrix Reloaded, kind of, with Trinity coming to help Neo. Despite dooming herself to die. So Jane does the exact same thing. She is able to help Thor defeat Gore at the cost of her own life, basically. Now her body is unable to fight off her, her cancer, so she just succumbs. So yeah, we have 2 touching scenes. First of Gore, realizing, thanks to Jane and Thor, that he should just, why is he trying to kill all the gods when he could just bring back the person who started this all, his daughter. So that's exactly what he did. Apparently this is the daughter of Chris Hemsworth, which is very cool based on where the story goes. And then we also have, Thor and Jane have to say their goodbyes. They do that annoying thing in movies where she whispers, I came up with the funniest tagline, and we don't know what it is because she just whispers it to Thor. But he has a nice, very well played, laughing but sad moment. So then, they both realize that they should have had a kid. They had always wanted to have a kid, and Gore is dying because, again, apparently the Necrosword does that. So he just asked them, or asked Thor specifically, "Can you just raise my kid for me then?" So she does, I can see that you are actually a god that has gone through a transformation and is more thoughtful than these other ones. So I am trusting you to actually do a good job to raise this kid who also apparently has powers of some sort. And that's exactly what happens. You know, we get a little flash forward of New Asgard as again, and we see that the children are being trained by Lady Sif and other of the warriors, and that Thor and this girl, who again is actually his daughter, have a very like sweet, father and daughter dynamic, which is very nice to see, and also nice that they brought this dead girl back. It would have been terrible if she just died, and that would have been it for the movie. We get some very funny scene of them, going on the attack of something or other. So yeah, and then we get two postscripts. One, we see Roy from Ted Lasso is apparently going to play Hercules. It's kind of strange to me, all these post-credit scenes now just seem like we're going to just present you with some character that you have no way of knowing unless you're a deep Marvel nerd. We saw that in Doctor Strange, where Charlize Theron shows up for 2 seconds and nobody knows who that is really. We saw that obviously in the Eternals. That was probably my least favorite post-credit scene. And now this one, where again, the thing that's supposed to be cool is seeing this character, but nobody really knows who it is. But people will probably just like it because it is Roy Kent from Ted Lasso, and that's cool. And then we get this final scene, which again, you just want to end things on a nice happy note. So we see you've touched on this many times throughout the movie. Lady Sif said she wanted to go to Valhalla. They talked about it other times when Thor realizes that she's dying, and finally she does. She makes it to Valhalla, and we get a nice cameo from Idris Elba as Heimdall, who welcomes her into Valhalla and kind of tells her what's going on, and she's like nice and healthy again. Healthy looking, I guess, because she's dead. So that's just a nice way to end the movie and have everything be happy and happy ending. We do also have these sequences throughout where Korg kind of narrates what's going on, which is kind of a nice meta thing, since obviously Taika is the one writing and directing this, and puts this very much in the frame of stories. I've also haven't seen anyone talk about this, but there's this hilarious running gag also. Matt Damon comes back, and I think one of the other Hemsworths as Thor. Playing Thor, and they have a little recreation of the events in Ragnarok, which I thought was one of the funniest scenes in the movie. And then they actually have them come back and say, we need to do some theater to lighten people's moods since all the children were kidnapped. So yeah, I just thought, is it the tightest woven script? No, there are probably lots of changes. I have to imagine COVID impacted this one as well, just like every other Phase 4 movie practically. But I thought, it had a lot more good than bad. Again, this seems like a problem of expectations. If you're expecting this and you get something else, then it's bad. But if you just take it as it is, a very, again, irreverence, not to be taken seriously at all, clearly, by all the jokes in it. Taika Waititi, very much putting his imprint on it. I definitely think it was an entertaining and good time at the movies. And I can see why people might have a difference of opinion. Again, if they're looking for something more serious, I thought the first two Thor movies were definitely a lot worse than the second two, so I don't really want them to return back to that more serious tone. But having said that, again, I think Chris Hemsworth is doing a very mature take on the character. It's very impressive to see his growth throughout the series, and I definitely think it's worth checking out, even if the effects have some problems, or the tone, or the pacing, or I don't know, people just don't see what they want to see. This might also be a problem with people having read the Jason Aaron run. I never did, and maybe they're just comparing it in their minds to that and saying, that was a lot better. Maybe I'll go check it out now, and maybe it'll make me hate the movie. I have no idea, but just take the movie that's there, not the one you want in your head, and I think you'll have a really good time. Okay, talk to you at the next. I'll talk to you in the next video.